The fluorescent lights of Fresh Mart grocery store cast harsh shadows across the checkout lanes as 27-year-old Sarah Mitchell stood in line, her 8-month-old baby Emma sleeping fitfully in her arms. In her other hand, she clutched an unopened can of premium baby formula. The receipt crumpled in her coat pocket, serving as evidence of a purchase she could no longer afford to keep. Sarah's blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and dark circles under her eyes told the story of sleepless nights spent worrying about bills that kept multiplying faster than her part-time income could cover them. The gray wool coat she wore had been a gift from better days, before her husband had left and before single motherhood had become a daily exercise in impossible mathematics. 2 lanes over, 34-year-old CFO Marcus Chen was finishing his own shopping, picking up dinner for another late night at the office. As the chief financial officer of Chen Industries, a manufacturing company his father had built from nothing, Marcus was accustomed to analyzing numbers and understanding the stories they told. Tonight, however, his attention was drawn to a different kind of calculation taking place at the customer service counter. Marcus watched as Sarah approached the teenage clerk with obvious reluctance, her baby still sleeping against her shoulder. "I need to return this formula," Sarah said quietly, placing the can on the counter along with her receipt. "I haven't opened it, and I have the receipt from yesterday." The clerk, whose name tag read Tyler, looked confused by the request. "Is there something wrong with it?" "No, nothing's wrong," Sarah replied, her voice barely audible. "I just realized I can't afford it right now." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest as he observed this interaction. He had spent his career managing budgets and financial projections, but he had never witnessed such a stark example of someone having to choose between necessities. Tyler processed the return with the mechanical efficiency of someone who had handled hundreds of similar transactions. But Marcus could see the judgment in the young man's expression. "That'll be $32.47 back to your card," Tyler said, his tone suggesting this was somehow Sarah's fault. Sarah accepted the refund with quiet dignity, but Marcus noticed the way her shoulders sagged with defeat as she turned away from the counter. She paused near the store's exit, looking at the formula display with an expression that broke Marcus's heart. Even from across the store, he could see her internal struggle as she calculated and recalculated expenses that simply wouldn't balance. Marcus made a decision that surprised even him. Abandoning his own shopping cart, he approached Sarah near the store entrance. "Excuse me," he said gently, not wanting to startle her or wake the baby. "I couldn't help but notice you were returning baby formula. Is everything all right?" Sarah looked up at him with wariness mixed with exhaustion. She took in his expensive suit and confident bearing, immediately categorizing him as someone from a world entirely different from hers. "Everything's fine," she said automatically, the response of someone who had learned not to share personal struggles with strangers. Marcus could see the protective wall she had erected, but he also noticed the way she unconsciously held her baby closer, the universal gesture of a mother who would do anything to protect her child. "I'm sorry if this seems forward," Marcus said carefully, "but I'm a father myself and I know how expensive formula can be. Would you allow me to purchase what you need for your baby?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "That's very kind, but I can't accept charity from a stranger." "It's not charity," Marcus said gently. "It's one parent helping another. My daughter Lily is 3 now, but I remember those early months when every expense felt overwhelming." At the mention of his daughter, Sarah's expression softened slightly. "You have a 3-year-old? I do. And if I'm being honest, raising her alone has taught me that sometimes accepting help isn't about pride. It's about doing what's best for your child." Sarah studied Marcus's face, searching for any sign of condescension or ulterior motive. What she found instead was genuine compassion and understanding. "Why would you want to help a complete stranger?" she asked. Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Because 6 months ago I was in a very dark place. My wife had left us. My father was pressuring me to take over more responsibility at our company, and I felt like I was failing at everything that mattered. A stranger showed me kindness when I needed it most, and it reminded me that we're all just trying to do our best." "What happened 6 months ago?" Sarah asked, her natural empathy overriding her wariness. "I was having a panic attack in a parking garage after a particularly brutal board meeting. A nurse who was finishing her shift saw me struggling and stayed with me until I could breathe normally again. She didn't know who I was or what I did for work. She just saw someone who needed help." Marcus paused, remembering that night and how it had changed his perspective on success and failure. "She told me something I'll never forget, that the measure of a person isn't what they achieve when everything is going well, but how they treat others when life is difficult for everyone involved." Sarah felt her defensive walls beginning to crumble as she recognized the authenticity in Marcus's story. "And now you want to pay it forward?" "I want to help a mother who's clearly devoted to her baby, even when it means making sacrifices that no parent should have to make." After a long moment, Sarah nodded slowly. "Emma is 8 months old. She's been on this formula since she was 4 months, and changing brands can upset her stomach." "Then let's make sure she doesn't have to change brands," Marcus said with relief. As they walked back through the store together, Sarah found herself sharing more of her story than she had intended. She was a part-time bookkeeper for a small medical practice, a job that provided some flexibility for childcare but didn't offer health insurance or enough income to cover the rising costs of rent, utilities, and baby supplies. "I've been trying to transition Emma to less expensive formula gradually," Sarah explained as they reached the baby aisle, "but she's been having digestive issues, and I couldn't bear to see her uncomfortable." Marcus listened with the attention he usually reserved for financial reports. But this time, the numbers represented a real person's daily struggle rather than abstract profit margins. "How many cans do you typically go through in a week?" he asked. "Usually 2, sometimes 3 if she's going through a growth spurt." Marcus did quick mental math and realized that Sarah was spending over $200 a month just on formula, a significant expense for someone working part-time. "Sarah, I have an idea, but I want you to hear me out completely before you say no." Sarah shifted Emma to her other arm and looked at him with curiosity. "My company, Chen Industries, has been looking for someone to help with bookkeeping on a contract basis. It would be remote work, flexible hours, and the pay would be significantly better than what you're earning now." "Marcus, you don't even know my qualifications," Sarah protested. "Actually, I do. You've been managing a complex budget under extremely difficult circumstances, finding ways to stretch every dollar while maintaining your responsibilities as a mother. Those are exactly the skills we need." Sarah stared at him in amazement. "You're offering me a job based on watching me return baby formula?" "I'm offering you an opportunity based on recognizing someone with excellent judgment, strong work ethic, and the kind of practical financial sense that comes from managing real-world constraints." Over the next hour, as they sat in the store's small cafe area while Emma napped, Marcus and Sarah discussed the job opportunity in detail. What Sarah learned was that Marcus wasn't just a successful businessman, but someone who had learned to value authentic human connection over professional networking. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said as Emma began to wake up and look around with the bright curiosity of a healthy baby. "Of course. Why is this really important to you?" "The job offer, helping with the formula, all of it?" Marcus watched Emma grab for Sarah's finger with tiny hands, and his expression grew thoughtful. "Because I spent the first 33 years of my life believing that success meant accumulating wealth and professional achievements. It took nearly losing my daughter and my own mental health to realize that real success means using whatever resources you have to make life better for the people around you." He paused, looking directly at Sarah. "Watching you put your baby's needs before your own pride, seeing you make difficult choices with grace and dignity, reminded me of what character actually looks like." 3 months later, Sarah sat in her small apartment, working on Chen Industries' quarterly reports while Emma played happily on a blanket nearby. The remote bookkeeping position had transformed their lives, providing not just financial stability, but also the flexibility to be present for her daughter's daily milestones. Marcus had become a regular part of their lives, not as an employer, but as a friend who understood the challenges of single parenthood. His daughter Lily had become Emma's enthusiastic big sister figure, and their weekend playdates had evolved into something that felt remarkably like family. "You know," Sarah said one Saturday afternoon as they watched their daughters play together at the park, "I never properly thanked you for that day at the store." "You thank me every day," Marcus replied, watching Lily carefully help Emma navigate the toddler playground equipment. "By being an incredible mother, an outstanding employee, and someone who's taught me that the best business decisions are often the ones that come from the heart rather than a spreadsheet." Sarah smiled, thinking about how dramatically her life had changed since that desperate day when she couldn't afford formula for her baby. "I've learned something too." "What's that?" "That sometimes what looks like failure is actually the beginning of something better. If I hadn't had to return that formula, if I hadn't been struggling so visibly, we might never have met." Marcus nodded, understanding that their connection had been built on authenticity rather than pretense. Some of the most important relationships start with one person recognizing that another person needs help, and being brave enough to offer it. As Emma took her first unsteady steps between the two adults who had become her chosen family, Sarah reflected on how accepting help from a stranger had led not just to financial stability, but to the discovery that strength sometimes comes from vulnerability, and that the most successful people are often those who understand that true wealth is measured in love and connection rather than bank balances. Sometimes the most expensive things in life, like premium baby formula, lead to the most valuable discoveries about human kindness and the possibility of building families that aren't defined by blood but by choice, compassion, and the willingness to help each other through life's most challenging moments. If this story reminded you that sometimes our most desperate moments can lead to unexpected blessings, please give it a like and share it with someone who understands that true success means lifting others up. Subscribe for more stories about kindness, family, and second chances, and let us know in the comments about a time when a stranger's generosity changed your perspective on what really matters. Sometimes the most important transactions happen not at cash registers, but in moments when we choose to care about each other's well-being.